1. As Kane's boots met the sun-baked earth of his farmland, they kicked up miniature dust devils that danced around his feet. The aroma of freshly turned soil mixed with the heady perfume of wildflowers in bloom, creating a natural melody that filled the air. His hands, hardened and sturdy from years of labor, made quick work adjusting the tension on a strip of barbed wire fencing. The metal sang softly under his confident grip. Each twist and pull fortified his small sanctuary, tough, self-contained, reflecting his own unyielding spirit. Good, he whispered to himself, a hint of gratification reflected in his affirming nod towards the taut wire. The sun's fiery rays bore down on him, creating an elongated silhouette that trailed behind him like a mute companion across the expansive field. His sandy hair was neatly swept back into a practical bun, with errant strands tickling his moist forehead under the unyielding heat. He paused for a moment to drink in the panorama, golden wheat fields swaying softly in the breeze, their tranquil exterior hiding an underlying unease. Despite being surrounded by such natural beauty, his mind couldn't help but wrestle with worry over the tremors they had been experiencing. They might have been minor, but their frequency was enough to send ripples of concern through the town. "Dad!" Lily's telepathic voice echoed within Kane's mind like a cherished melody. It was their unique language that could reach him no matter how engrossed he was in thought or fatigue. He looked towards their traditional Queenslander farmhouse where Lily stood on the porch, her curls gleaming like molten gold under sunlight as she held out her hands with something delicate resting on her fingers. "What's there? A butterfly?" Kane asked with a soft smile that softened his intense blue eyes. Their bond went beyond words. It was woven from countless moments of shared silence and understanding throughout Lily's 16 years. Lily lifted her hands, revealing a beautiful butterfly perched lightly on her fingertips. Its iridescent wings sparkled against her pale skin as Kane signed his admiration for the creature before mimicking its flight with a playful flutter of his fingers. As the butterfly took off, Lily watched it vanish into the wind with a calm fascination. In that moment of pure natural beauty, everything else seemed insignificant. Neither the town's rumors nor the perplexing tremors beneath their feet mattered. "Let's go water those tomatoes," Kane suggested softly as they headed towards their garden. Lily held the watering can with gentle care while Haze the shepherd followed her like a vigilant guardian, safeguarding each step she took. They worked together in a harmonious rhythm under a clear sky adorned with thin clouds and accompanied by the chirping of nearby birds. Lily wore her yellow beanie and white headphones, her shield against any discomfort from others' presence. Even if they were silent due to being nonverbal, she only removed them indoors where she found peace without needing them. "Well done," Kane praised Lily once they finished watering. His words were followed by a loving pat on her shoulder and an exchanged look filled with unspoken love and pride. "Want to race back?" Kane playfully proposed. Lily's eyes sparkled with anticipation before she darted off towards home, Haze the shepherd's joyful barks echoing in their playful race. Kane settled into his trusty farm ute, his calloused hands gripping the steering wheel as he navigated through the familiar maze of country roads. His destination was the town's charming general store, with a worn-out list of necessities clenched in his sun-kissed hand. As evening approached, the sky unfurled an exquisite palette of orange and purple hues, yet the townsfolk seemed oblivious to its beauty. Their faces were etched with worry, their hushed conversations humming with an unease that not even their idyllic surroundings could dispel. The door of the local grocery creaked open, drawing the attention of Margaret, an aging woman in her 70s, who had comfortably settled into her chair behind a weathered cash register that held as many stories as the years etched onto its wooden frame. Her eyes crinkled in a welcoming smile as she recognized Kane's familiar figure stepping through the entrance. Kane navigated the narrow aisles with practiced ease, his strong hands methodically picking up items and placing them in a wicker basket. As he moved around, Margaret's voice echoed gently across the store, breaking the silence. "Did you hear about the UFOs, Kane?" she asked, her tone laced with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. "No. I haven't heard about any UFOs, Margaret," Kane replied calmly without missing a beat in his shopping rhythm. Margaret continued undeterred. "It was on the news that people keep seeing them. Some folks are saying they get sucked up into them. They reckon they have something to do with those underground explosions too." Kane dismissed it nonchalantly as he approached Margaret's counter with his filled basket. "Nah, it's just old mining shafts collapsing," he offered lightly. People are packing up their homes and leaving town out of fear. Margaret confided in him earnestly. People are really scared. Setting down his basket on the counter with a gentle thud, Kane flashed her an assuring smile that seemed to radiate warmth and comfort against her anxiety. You have to stop listening to gossip and rumors, Margaret. He chided gently. Aliens? Really? I tell you what, if it turns out to be just the mining shafts collapsing like I said, you owe me a case of brew? Yeah? A soft chuckle escaped from Margaret at his proposition as she returned his smile gratefully. I hope you're right, mate. Kane gave her a playful wink in response before he collected his bag of groceries and exited the store, leaving Margaret with a lingering sense of reassurance amidst the growing fear. Exiting the store, Kane drew in a deep breath of the crisp evening air. He could feel an undercurrent of tension that seemed to permeate everything: the whispered discussions, the anxious sidelong glances. As he strolled past the main street shops and homes, snippets of their dialogues revealed the depth of their concerns. They're hiding something from us, a man declared from his porch, a shotgun ominously resting across his lap. Stay safe out there, Kane, Old Man Harris called out from across the street. Don't let the fear consume you. I won't, Kane affirmed with a nod, his voice steady amidst the growing uncertainty. Stay close to Lily, Harris urged, his face etched with worry lines. Always, Kane reassured him, picturing his daughter back home. The unease gripping their town wasn't fleeting. It was a storm brewing, and when it broke loose, he'd be the shield for what he held dear. At his homestead, Kane's palms were slippery with oil as he worked on the engine of his old ute. The dimming light of dusk was gradually swallowed up by night's inky embrace. Nearly dinner time, he declared to Haze, wiping sweat from his brow and casting a glance towards the house where Lily was waiting patiently. Before he could finish his sentence, a deep rumble vibrated through the ground beneath him. He froze as a louder tremor followed. It was like the earth itself was growling from its bowels. Not now, he muttered under his breath, eyes darting across the horizon. His gaze landed on Lily standing at their farmhouse door, her bright blue eyes filled with apprehension. Stay inside, Lily. I've got this, he called out to her, striving to keep his voice steady to soothe her worries. He gave a reassuring nod towards Haze, who stood alert by the porch, ears pricked towards the ominous sound. Watch over Lily, Haze. I'll be right back. At Kane's command, Haze barked and moved protectively closer to the house. Good girl, Kane praised before striding off towards the barn as he sought out the source of these unsettling noises. He halted beside an ancient oak tree at their farmland's edge just as another loud boom resonated, causing soil to burst into air like a tiny geyser. Kane's heart thudded in sync with these mysterious sounds. It's coming from underground, he mumbled while approaching the spot where earth had erupted violently. Stooping down, he examined the disturbed soil, his fingers brushing over fresh upheaval. This wasn't a natural event. Explosions underground, he voiced aloud, echoing fears whispered among townsfolk. His gaze hardened with determination. Time to uncover what lies beneath. With one last look back at their homestead where Haze kept vigil by the window, Kane headed towards the barn to gather a flashlight and tools. It was time to delve deeper, both metaphorically and literally, into whatever secrets were entombed beneath his land. Kane plunged into the abyssal darkness, his flashlight's beam slicing through the shadowy veil. A musty scent of damp earth and old iron met him, whispering ancient stories. He paused, his ears straining against the spectral silence that followed the subterranean tremors. It felt as if this hidden world was holding its breath in anticipation, awaiting something or someone. What secrets are you harboring? Kane whispered to himself, his voice barely stirring the silence. His foot stumbled upon an aged chain concealed beneath grass and soil. It was attached to something buried deep below. As he dug through dirt and debris, he hit a metallic object lid, a hatch. With a strong pull, it creaked open, revealing a ladder descending into Earth's belly. Undeterred by fear, he delved into this newfound mystery. His fingers traced along the walls within this dimly lit chamber, searching for any anomalies in its structure. The walls made of metal with green peeling paint. A few steps forward led him to an unexpected discovery, a cold metal door slightly ajar. Its rusty hinges protested under his touch as he gently pushed it open to reveal a room lined with shelving units bearing dust-covered cans and boxes haphazardly scattered. An evident sign of hurried desertion. An abandoned bomb shelter, Kane deduced, Curiosity ignited within him. His hands sifted through outdated supplies, canned goods well past their prime, all blanketed in layers of undisturbed dust. Hasn't been used in years, he concluded before wiping his hands clean on his denim pants. Having exhausted all immediate clues for now, he decided to return later with provisions, just in case they needed an emergency refuge someday. Back at the house's spacious shed, Kane was busily loading essentials onto a wheelbarrow when a sudden noise akin to a car crash startled him. What on earth? He abandoned his task, sprinting towards the sound source across the dark field. As he flung open the barn door, an eerie greenish glow greeted him. "Who's out there?" Kane demanded, maintaining a composed facade despite fear gnawing at his nerves. His query was met with silence save for his own echo bouncing off the wooden walls. Cautiously advancing further into the barn, he discovered an alien metallic fragment nestled between hay bales, covered in cryptic symbols, pulsating with luminescence and emitting a low hum that resonated through his very core. This wasn't ordinary debris, it was from another world. Good Lord! Kane's voice was barely a whisper as he stretched out his sun-kissed hand towards the object, only to retract it at the last moment. Could this be connected to the ground-shaking explosions that he had previously shrugged off as nothing more than natural gas eruptions or mining accidents? But this discovery hinted at something far more sinister perhaps. He lifted his piercing blue eyes, taking in the gaping wound torn through the wooden wall of his barn, evidence of the craft's violent entry, and beyond it, a long trail of destruction marring his otherwise pristine fields. Could this be real? His focus returned to the unearthed secret lying before him, and with a triumphant gotcha, he snapped photos of the cryptic symbols etched onto its surface with his phone before hiding it beneath an old tarpaulin sheet. He couldn't risk those government agents discovering this tangible proof. His mind raced through countless possibilities. Was this man-made, or from another world? Was someone or something searching for it? Despite its compact dimensions, could there be something living inside? His thoughts ranged from drone technology to debris from a larger spacecraft. The mystery deepened, fueling Kane's determination to uncover its truth. A surge of adrenaline propelled Kane through the back door of their weathered farmhouse. His sturdy work boots tracked mud across the worn wooden floorboards. At their well-used kitchen table, Lily was absorbed in her drawing. Haze lay lazily at her feet, her ears twitching alertly at Kane's sudden entrance. Lily looked up at him, her bright blue eyes silently asking for answers. His rigid posture and palpable urgency communicated more than words ever could. He offered her a reassuring smile while hastily gathering supplies. Canned food, bottled water, blankets and a first aid kit were tossed into an old duffel bag, followed by a flashlight, batteries and spare clothing for both of them. "Lily," he said with a note of urgency as he packed their supplies, "grab your most treasured things quickly. Only what you can carry." Haze watched the flurry of activity attentively, her head cocked to one side. Sensing the change in atmosphere, she rose to her feet ready for whatever command would come next. Catching Haze's gaze, Kane ordered firmly, "You too, girl. Stay close." Kane notices a light shining in his eye from his front window. He looks up and notices 3 sets of car headlights coming down his driveway, causing a surge of panic to rise within him, but he maintained his calm facade. They were nearly ready to leave when an eerie hum filled their home, causing it to subtly vibrate. Kane froze before rushing towards the window for a better look outside. Above their wheat field hovered an enormous disc-shaped object casting an otherworldly glow. It was colossal, its size dwarfing even their house. "Sweet Jesus!" He breathed out as fear fluttered wildly within him like a trapped bird desperate for escape. This was real, terrifyingly so. "Haze! Lily! We need to move now." The urgency in Kane's voice echoed through the room despite not needing any words. Lily had already seen the UFO through the window and clutched her sketchbook tightly, her eyes wide with fear. Haze growled softly, her protective instincts coming alive. Kane risked another glance out the window to see the cars on his driveway immobilized as if drained of power, their occupants frantically trying to free themselves from their locked vehicles. "To the shelter. Quick!" He ushered them towards the back door, stealing anxious glances at their silent observer looming ominously above them. Their once tranquil farm now felt exposed under its watchful presence. The entrance to their bomb shelter was hidden beneath a patch of grass, an old relic that suddenly offered hope for safety. Kane flung open its heavy door, tossed his duffel bag inside and helped Lily descend into the dark unknown below before wrestling with Haze to carry her down into the cool, damp refuge of their underground haven. The metallic door groaned shut behind him, the sound bouncing off the underground walls of their makeshift refuge. "Stay here and stay quiet," Kane's voice echoed, a firm command to his daughter and loyal dog. His thoughts were a whirlpool of panic and confusion, but he pushed them aside. Lily's safety was paramount. Everything else could wait. "Let's make ourselves comfortable," he murmured, his voice barely audible in the confined space. He switched on the time-worn kerosene lamps with his flashlight, conserving its battery for more dire circumstances. The room was cramped, filled with relics from another era, outdated rations and an ancient radio that connected them to the world above. His hands shook slightly as he sorted through their provisions, arranging everything within easy reach. He glanced at his phone. No signal. They were cut off from the rest of humanity. Perhaps it was for the best. Lily settled on a rusted wire mesh mat on the floor, wrapping herself in a woolen blanket while keeping her gaze fixed on her father. Her small hand reached out to touch his arm, pulling him away from organizing their water supplies. "We're gonna be all right, Lil," he reassured her softly as he looked into her trusting eyes amidst uncertainty. He joined her on the mat and pressed a gentle kiss onto her forehead. He let out a long breath. Lily's unwavering faith was what kept him grounded in this chaos. Despite not knowing what lay ahead or how long they would be held up here, one thing was certain. He would protect Lily at all costs. The dim light from the lamp cast long shadows over stacks of canned food and water bottles lined against one wall of their haven. Kane unrolled an old sleeping bag next to Lily and smoothed it down before sitting beside her. "This is our safe haven for tonight," Kane declared into the hollow silence of their temporary home. Lily nodded in agreement, her fingers tracing imaginary patterns on the sleeping bag before she nestled into it. Haze positioned herself at Lily's feet, her body a living shield. "Good job, Haze," Kane praised, his hand scratching behind Haze's ears affectionately. "Stay vigilant." Haze locked eyes with him, a low growl of acknowledgement escaping from her throat. They sit in absolute silence for quite some time. They hear no sounds from the outside, no wind, no vibrational humming, just absolute silence. Time is passing and Kane is eager to learn of what's going on up there, if anything. "Let's tune into any updates." His hands were steady as he turned the dial on the radio, but it only responded with static. He frowned, giving the device a slight tap with his palm. "Still nothing." "Nothing yet," he muttered under his breath. The silence of their hideout was shattered by Haze's sudden growl. Her body stiffened, fur bristling as she focused intently on one of the bunker walls. "What's up?" Kane moved to stand next to her, his eyes scanning the concrete wall for any signs of danger. "You sense something?" Haze let out an echoing bark this time that bounced off their shelter walls. Lily covered her ears at the loud sound, but curiosity gleamed in her wide eyes rather than fear. Abruptly, a low-frequency rumble vibrated the soil beneath their feet, prompting a shower of dust particles to descend from the ceiling of their makeshift shelter. Haze's growl took on a more menacing tone as she retreated, positioning herself in a protective stance between Lily and the seemingly innocuous wall. Kane extended his arm to grab his flashlight, clicking it on with a swift thumb movement that bathed the room in an unforgiving white light. He directed its beam towards the wall that held Haze's unwavering attention, but there was no visible sign of disturbance. "Easy girl," he whispered soothingly to Haze, his hand gently stroking her flank in an attempt to calm her. However, the dog remained rigid with alertness, her gaze never straying from the unremarkable concrete barrier. Without warning, a section of the wall began to ripple like water disturbed by a thrown stone before it gradually started to dematerialize. Kane squinted at this bewildering spectacle, his heart thudding against his ribcage as he held his breath in anticipation. His instinctual protective nature prompted him to sidle closer to Lily and Haze while they watched in stunned silence. The concrete finally vanished, completely revealing an ominous tunnel shrouded in impenetrable darkness beyond. A cool zephyr wafted through carrying an unfamiliar scent, the damp muskiness of earth mingled with something metallic. It wasn't unpleasant per se, but alien enough to make Kane's skin prickle with unease. "Holy!" Kane muttered under his breath as he took an instinctive step back from this unexpected portal into uncharted territory. Haze let out another bark, louder this time as if issuing a challenge to any potential threats lurking within that abyss. Lily, Kane said urgently yet quietly so as not to startle her further. Stay behind me. He hoisted their duffel bag and slung it over his shoulder before taking one last glance around their former sanctuary that had turned into something far more ominous. With flashlight in hand and Haze by his side growling lowly at the unknown, they embarked on their journey into the tunnel, leaving their safe haven behind. The path was uneven underfoot and slick with moisture, but surprisingly wide enough for them to walk comfortably side by side. As they ventured deeper into the tunnel, the temperature dipped noticeably and a strange silence enveloped them. Their footsteps echoed off the walls, the only sound in this alien environment. Lily clutched onto Kane's hand tightly as they moved forward, her wide eyes darting around nervously. Haze continued to growl lowly under her breath but remained at their side, her ears perked up and alert. The tunnel eventually opened up into a vast cavern lit by an eerie glow coming from luminescent fungi clinging to the walls. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like massive icicles while stalagmites jutted out from the ground creating a surreal landscape. Kane let out a low whistle as he took in their surroundings. I had no idea Earth looked like this, he murmured to himself before turning his attention back to Lily and Haze. Stay close. They ventured further into this underground world, unaware of what lay ahead or how their lives were about to change forever. Okay, I'm looking. Kane ran his hands over the cold surface, feeling for anything out of place, and then he found it. A seam, cleverly hidden, almost imperceptible. He pressed down on it, and to his astonishment, the wall gave way slightly under the pressure. Would you look at that, he whispered, pushing harder. With a reluctant grind of stone against stone, a section of the wall swung inward, revealing another passage shrouded in darkness. Looks like we're not the first to use this shelter, Kane said, shining the lantern into the void beyond the doorway. Stay here, I'll just take a quick look. I'll be careful. Giving Lily a reassuring wink. As he stepped into the long dark hallway, the air grew colder, and the smell of earth and old secrets filled his nostrils. He ventured only a few steps, taking in the rough-hewn walls and silence that seemed to press in from all sides. Nothing much to see here, he called back to Lily, retreating to Lily and Haze. Just an old tunnel. We'll explore it later when it's safe. For now, we should just go back to the shelter. A brave smile graced Lily's lips. Adventure always finds us, doesn't it? Kane grinned despite the unease that gnawed at his gut. Whatever lay beyond that doorway, they would face it together. For now, they go back to the bunker where they feel safe. Kane settled next to Lily with Haze keeping vigilant watch as their lantern flickered, casting dancing shadows against the walls of their unexpected sanctuary. Kane feels a sense of security in the vastness of the bunker, its capacity sufficient to shelter numerous souls. His stockpile is far from infinite, yet he intends to gather more. Martha invades his thoughts. The desire to ensure her safety nags at him, but the logistics of getting her here baffle him. He ponders on the state of the world above. It could be unchanged or reduced to cinders. One thing Kane is certain of, peace will elude him forever if he doesn't make an attempt to rescue Martha.